Good evening and welcome to the Scarborough Board of Education, Thursday, December 21st, 2023 business meeting. Diane, can we call the roll please?
Sure. Mrs. Gammon? Here. Mr. Kelleher?
Here.
Ms. Leong?
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom?
Here.
Ms. Harpinian?
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff? Here. Mr. Shumway? And Ms. Leisure?
She's been excused. Thank you. Could everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Agenda item 4.0 is adjustments to the agenda. I do have just one. I would like to add underneath the liaison, so before new business, I would like to make a motion to add a very quick agenda item to discuss the survey working group, the community survey. So do I have a motion? I mean, a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Agenda item 5.0 is public comment. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment this evening? Yeah, come on up to that.
Hi, thanks for having me. Nick McGee, Chair of the Town Council, and that's the capacity I'm speaking tonight. And last night at our council meeting, I just wanted to let the school board know that the entire council viewed our joint partnership favorably. The concept of getting a working group together and maybe even possibly a joint venture. Part of that discussion included how do we go about doing this? And through the discussion, the suggestion was made that council leadership, which would be myself and April Seither, would meet with two designees from your board if you find it, favorable, to help build the framework for how a process like this could work. That's pretty much what I have to share, and I hope you can discuss that, and we'll bat the ball around after you have your discussions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. All right. Is there anybody else wishing to make public comment this evening? All right. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close public comment for the evening. Agenda item 6.0 is the Spotlight Award. So for this, I'll turn it over to Jenna.
Yay. Okay, so we didn't do a November spotlight last month only because we had a referendum. We didn't want that to overshadow anything that was happening with our great winners. So this month we wanted to celebrate a spotlight award for a very special person that was nominated. So tonight, the spotlight award winner is, who is it? Laura McKenzie. So Laura is Wentworth's academic life skills teacher. She was nominated by a peer that we'll reveal in a second for her leadership and implementation of the ruler program. And I'll let the nominator speak once we reveal. And I also, I know a lot of people are going to be here to speak, and then I'm also going to be reading out some other written testimonials about you. So let's see who the nominator is. Let's reveal. It's Sherry Bell. So Sherry, I invite you up here to speak about Miss Laura.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Bell, and I'm an ed tech paraprofessional at Wentworth School. I'd like to begin by thanking the board for selecting my nominee, Laura McKenzie, for the Spotlight Award. I'd also like to apologize in advance that I'm not a public speaker, and I'm very nervous. However, when you believe in something, you go out of your comfort zone. And that's what Laura has done. Laura has gone completely out of her comfort zone, teaching all of us at Wentworth the importance of Ruler. Ruler is a new social emotional learning system that was adopted this school year for the staff and will be unveiled for the students next school year. Laura believes in this program wholeheartedly. That's why she's taken on the role of spokesperson and teacher for all the staff at Wentworth. Laura is usually shy and doesn't like to be the center of attention. However, she's stepped up and taken on this role despite her shyness and being an introvert. Laura's common thought was to help us educators be better educators and to help us help the students. Laura always puts her students first. And that's why she's gone out of her comfort zone to teach all of us about Ruler and be a public speaker. That is a sign of a good educator. And she's helping the rest of us become better educators. It's because of this that I wanted to nominate Laura McKenzie for the Spotlight Award. One of Laura's paraprofessionals, ed techs, was unable to be here tonight and asked me to speak on his behalf. His name is Sam Barrett. Laura McKenzie has changed a lot since I first met her. But one thing that hasn't changed is her dedication to the kids. She always goes above and beyond for the kids when times are good, and she never gives up when times are tough. On a professional front, for the betterment of the Scarborough school community, she has set her mind to helping the Ruler Task Force, despite being a fair bit of, sorry, I apologize. Sam, I'm sorry. She has set her mind to helping the Ruler Task Force, despite it requiring a fair bit of public speaking, a thing she's terribly afraid of. Yep. These are the reasons, these are only a few of the reasons that I want to speak on her behalf of her character. And I believe that she makes an excellent recipient of the Spotlight Award. I'd like to take a moment and introduce Kelly Crosby, our Wentworth principal.
We should have compared notes a little bit, Sherry, because I'm going to say a little bit of the same. It has been a joy to watch Laura McKenzie's growth as an educator over her time at Wentworth, and she's very deserving of this recognition. Laura has been a special educator, our academic life skills teacher for several years, and is a self-proclaimed introvert. However, she has always demonstrated a quiet passion for inclusion, meeting kids where they are, and she knows the importance of relationships and social and emotional learning. I suggested that these strengths made her a great candidate to join the implementation team for Ruler, and to my delight, she agreed. So Ruler, a little bit about Ruler, it's a systemic approach to SEL and the acronym for the 5 skills of emotional intelligence. The R stands for recognizing, the U stands for understanding, the L is for labeling, E, expressing, and R, regulating emotions with helpful strategies. Our implementation team, which includes myself and the SEL specialist, Stacy Canapa, along with a school counselor, Rachel Galesian, a classroom teacher, Amy Sullivan, an instructional coach, Kelly Tukey, and a special educator, Laura McKenzie, has been engaged for over a year. Once Ruler was selected as the SEL resource, we underwent extensive training to become trainers in order to turnkey this learning for the entire staff. The planning part has been within Laura's comfort zone, and she's really helped us make thoughtful decisions for how to deliver this PD to her colleagues. The first day she had to stand up in front of over 100 peers certainly had her shaking in her boots. However, she did it, and she stood up there and she named that she was really anxious about it, and she persevered, and she modeled all the skills of ruler. It was a super powerful moment. As the months have gone on, she's found her confidence, infused humor, blames me a little bit less for making her do this, and has transformed into the strong teacher leader that she has always had inside of her. She's very deserving of this recognition.
So I have two others that I need to read out today. So the first one is from Jamie Deshays. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay. So Laura McKenzie is an incredible colleague. She's always willing to help out wherever needed. Whether it's helping out with staff or taking on students that need a little more, Laura is always willing to pitch in. Laura has done an amazing job modifying the gen ed curriculum in many areas so that all of her students can access grade level materials where possible. Her students always feel loved and respected. Students who come to school feeling loved and respected are more willing to take risks in their education, something that can be difficult for her population. Scarborough is lucky to have Laura McKenzie. And then our next one is from Chris Rohde and Nicole Benham. Laura McKenzie has been a part of our special education team for 8 years. Throughout her time with us, Laura has proven to be a dedicated educator who always advocates for the needs of the students that she works with. Any visitor to Laura's classroom will see students that are engaged, challenged, and having fun. Laura has a unique ability to connect with students with a wide range of strengths and needs. She sees the potential in all of her students and works hard to make sure that they have the instruction and resources they need to reach that potential. Laura also excels at working with our students' parents so that they truly feel that they are part of the child's school team. Laura is also a great colleague. She is flexible, kind, thoughtful, a great listener, highly skilled, student-focused, and always ready to jump right in to help out. In short, we are very lucky to have Laura as a part of our school community. We can't think of a better recipient for this Spotlight Award. Congratulations. We have a certificate and a little gift to present to you. Come on in.
Not that we want to put you on the spot after we just talked about public speaking, but are you interested in coming up and saying anything? Would you like to? You certainly don't have to.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
Being part of the ruler team has really been pretty awesome, and I'm happy it has helped me come out of my shell a little bit. And again, Kelly Bowman told me to do it, so that's why I'm here.
Oh, man, I think you have one more. Do you have one more slide? Do you have one more slide?
Oh yeah, we just.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can actually click on that title over there, nominate your colleagues. I should turn on my mic for them. So on this last slide, you can actually click on the link where it says nominate your colleague. This is one of our favorite things that we do every month. We love hearing all the great things that happen in our school, and we love that it's your own peers that are nominating you. So please send in your nominations. You can click on that. It's a Google form. You fill out the information of who you want to nominate and why, and then we'll take it from there. So keep it coming.
All right, congratulations again. You're so welcome. I'm so glad you could be here too. All right, agenda item 7.0 is the SEF presentation. I'm sorry? Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was calling you up or somebody
No.
else. So welcome, Colleen. We're happy to have you today.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So, I just have a few things I just wanted to kind of present about the Scarborough Education Foundation. But first, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Colleen Ammon. I'm the president of the Scarborough Education Foundation. And thanks for having us. I just wanted to, like I said, share some updates of some things that have gone on this year, our most recent grant presentations, and whatnot. First, I'm going to just start with, do you want me to continue to? That's okay. So I'm going to go ahead to the next, and I'm going to just introduce and let you know who currently makes up our board. Some of them are with us tonight, and I'll introduce them to you. But John Ducey is our current treasurer. Michelle Romano is our secretary. Jess Libby, who's with us here tonight, is our marketing chair. Jean King, also here tonight, is our grants chair. Lindsay Diminick is a board member, and Hannah Goodwin is a board member. Several of these people are new to our board this year. One of the big things that we've been working on that some of you may recall from last year was that we really were trying to increase our board size. So we're still working on that, but we had some success this year by adding some new people. So of note, just, for everybody to know, and if anybody's interested or, wants to help us recruit, those of us who are on the current board for Scarborough Education Foundation share a passion for educating, for educators and supporting our students. But our backgrounds are different. And I just think that's it's kind of important to share with you because we're not all current parents of students in the Scarborough school system. So I share that with you again, just to sort of help us advertise what we're looking for. So I have four kids who came through the Scarborough schools, but I don't have anybody any longer in the Scarborough schools. I've got kids in college and graduate school and beyond. We have a current retired educator on our board, and then the parents that are on our board represent parents who have students in the primary schools all the way through the high school. So we really, kind of represent a number of different areas in the community. And so I just, again, like I said, feel that that's important to share as we're always looking to recruit new people and increase our board size so that we can do more. It's really our goal. Like, it's just when we're bare bones, it's hard for us to do the fundraising events. Some of you may recall, years ago, we had a lot of different fundraising events, and we're just still working on getting back on our feet since the board size changed and COVID and whatnot. So I'm going to just share a little bit about our mission and why we exist. In short, we exist to give grants to educators in the Scarborough schools. We connect the generosity of our community with the creativity of our educators to invest in improving the learning outcomes of the students of Scarborough Public Schools. So we have our grant process, and we just want to support educators and students K-12 in the school systems. And our vision is that we're look to bring educators' ideas to life. The monies that we raise are intended to fund innovative ideas whose funding falls outside the normal educational budget considerations. Utilizing outcomes data, CEF will provide regular and transparent information to inform decisions that could affect change within the educational system. Together as a community, we work in close partnership with Scarborough Public Schools today to invest in a more creative and thoughtful tomorrow for our children. So our grants process, educators apply for grants, and we do have a grants committee that reviews, and we have a rubric that we review. But before the grants come to us, they do go through their building administrators and the superintendents and administrative and curriculum coordinators before they come to us seeking funding from us. So there is a collaborative relationship with the Scarborough schools and us as we are looking to help support extras in the school systems. So talking more specifically about our grants, we have funded more than $250,000 in educator grants since we began. They were awarded for the purpose of supporting innovative and creative initiatives that will enhance the curriculum for students in grades K-12 in the Scarborough schools. The grants are intended to support programs and initiatives that likely will impact a significant number of students or promise to have a profound impact on a smaller number of students. So again, just referring to our grant, the rubric that the grants committee uses, those are the different things that we're looking at is, how many students or how many grades are being, so we as a grants committee really review that as well to make sure that our impact is as broad as it can be. So that's one of the things that we do review. As recently as last week, and I know Kelly mentioned, thanked me when I came in about some of the Wentworth grants that were awarded. We awarded 6 new grants last week for a total of $13,352. They were awarded to educators at primary, Wentworth, and middle school levels. They included things such as author visits, an outdoor chess set, providing books to help with complete acceptance and inclusion of neurodiversity, enhancing the math curriculum, teaching students how to read, plan, and perform scenes from a play, and enriching student learning through presentations by a Penobscot leader, Wabanaki singers and drummers, and an Abenaki storyteller. So some really, fun, different, and creative things that came our way. And I have to tell you, I sit on the grants committee, and it's really fun to, to review what the teacher, what they're thinking about and what's going on. Especially, as I said, I don't have any kids in the school system any longer. So we do look forward to. So we have 2 grant cycles, a fall and a spring. So our next grant cycle will be the spring with deadline for submissions April 23rd. The school, Cheryl helps us with notifying the educators, and, so they all are aware of those deadlines, for Steph. We'd be remiss without acknowledging the passing of Will Ledley, who passed away this past spring. He was one of our founding members and the first president for Scarborough Education Foundation. As a result of his passing, one of the things that his family requested in his obituary was donations to Scarborough Education Foundation. And we were, truly grateful for that remembrance, knowing that it was a true passion of Will's when this organization was founded. A direct result of that is that we were able to fund, as I said, over $13,000 worth of grants just last week. And much of that was because of the generosity of Will's family and friends. And I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that. And then the last thing, there's always the question of how can you support CEF? And so there are several ways. We kicked off our annual appeal on Giving Tuesday, November 28th. So we do have a Facebook page and a website where people can directly donate. In the past, we have had board participation, so we, welcome and appreciate any support, any continued support there. But then, as I mentioned earlier, time and participation are huge. We really are always looking to increase our board size and just have some new blood with supporting our events and fundraising opportunities. And many hands make light work. So, so anything anybody can do to kind of help us with recruiting people. We did this year do a little bit more. So we had a presence this year on Election Day, which did bring in some donations, but it also helped with our visibility and letting the community know who we are, sort of educating community members. And a few people did ask, how can I get involved? So that's something too that we're looking, and we've talked to Diane about the possibility. We didn't get our act together this year, but open houses at the schools, like different ways to kind of increase our visibility, so that everybody knows who we are, what we do, and if they're interested, they can join us. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of share this with all of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Is there any comments or questions for Colleen? I would just tell you based on our experience from the working at the open houses, there's a lot of real interest in hearing what's going on around the school community, right? And so I would definitely recommend doing that. I would say Wentworth is an interesting open house. Kelly definitely warned me the night I worked. She said, it's like a Taylor Swift concert. And it truly is something to be seen, right? With the parents lined up but we were able to have a lot of really good conversations, really good, meaningful conversations with parents. And so I feel like you might find the same
Sure. Yeah.
with that. So I would definitely encourage, and thank you so much for coming and talking and sharing
Sure.
with us what you're doing. It's really wonderful for us to get to see.
Sure. Well, like I said,
What's
thank you
happening.
for having us.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 8.0 is the superintendent's report, the MPA coaches recognition. So I'll turn this over to Diane.
Yeah, so a couple of really positive recognitions that we wanted to share out with you this evening. The first piece is actually about one of our high school students, Matthew Fagerlund. And he has been selected as Representative Pingree's Congressional App winner. And so what that means is he created an application for phones that contains diagrams and explanations about how to graph math functions that high school students encounter in their work. And when I asked Matt about this, what he said to me was that his purpose in designing this app was to primarily help his fellow students in being better able to understand their homework and perhaps more motivated to figure things out versus just using AI to help them come to that understanding. And so his app is going to be featured in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Capitol this spring, and he will be invited to attend that ceremony. So the name of his app is Grapher. And it is going to be displayed in the Capitol for a whole year. It's going to be featured on house.gov and on the Congressional App Challenge.us. So this is quite an honor for one of our students. So we would have been remiss not to, speak about that this evening. So we're really psyched to help him celebrate that. The other piece of great news this evening is about some recognition for two of our high school coaches who received the National Federation of State High School Associations Coach of the Year Award from the Maine Principals Association. And those two individuals include Eric Wersing, who was named as Boys Ice Hockey Coach of the Year for last year, and Morgan Royal, who received the Boys Swimming Coach of the Year. So great recognitions again, and things for us to celebrate as a district.
Very good. Thank you, Diane.
Mhm.
Is there any questions or comments? All right. Agenda item 9.0 is a liaison report. It's one that we missed last week. So I'm going to turn this over to Jillian, who's our pre-K task force liaison.
All right, so we met just before the holiday last month and with Ruth Hughes, who has a preschool in the area, but she's also gone and gotten some certification and wanted to present to us some new opportunities or some opportunities for pre-K through the state programming. So we got to hear about a little bit about that. And then next month on the 2nd, getting right back into it after the holiday, we are meeting with the early childhood education specialist from the Maine Department of Education. And we'll hear some more specifics about the programs available. And there have been news reports that some things are changing as well. So we'll hear more about that and what that means for Scarborough.
All right. Are there any questions for Jillian? Thank you, Jillian. Any questions for Jillian? Of pre-K.
I just want to say that I'm looking forward to hearing updates on that because pre-K sounds very exciting for this district, I think, so. be
Yeah, and it's
awesome.
exciting to have when we don't have space and we didn't pass a successful school referendum, right? It's exciting that we have a partner in the community that can help with providing space. So it's great news all around. What happens, I know that there's a goal to have the state of Maine have pre-K, or I've been reading that there's a goal to have the state have required pre-K by at least one class in 4 years. So what happens if we don't have a school coming and in 4 years? And does Ruth have enough space to accommodate multiple classrooms? No. Yes, I would love for you
Yeah,
to.
so just speaking to that, again, that has been a changing expected timeline from the
Mm.
state for a number of years.
Mhm.
Mostly because although the state and districts are proponents of pre-K, there hasn't been a lot of funding attached to that. And
Right.
so, districts have struggled to get things off the ground. We're excited about exploring this potential partnership because this is a great example of that public-business partnership model.
Mhm.
And so as it relates to speaking with Ruth, we would, what we're really exploring at the current time would be a starter program for about 16 students, which is very comparable to how many districts start programming
Mhm.
on a small scale, testing things out, and then branching out from there. So last year, we had made some attempts to get
Yeah.
some funding from the state, and those
Were
were
denied.
not successful.
Yeah.
And so we're trying a different approach this year. And so we're excited to talk with Nicole Madore, who is the early childhood specialist from the DOE on January 2nd, to see how this model might be able to fit in.
Very good. So is it just making changes to last year's model so that hopefully the funding does come through?
So last year's model, we were really just looking at exploring a partnership with CDS
Mhm.
for special services. And the look that we're taking this year is more of a general education model. Because again, we're just looking at what some of the potential funding streams are.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions? Perfect, thank you. All right, the new agenda item 10.0 is the community survey. This is just a very quick, last week, or 2 weeks ago, we discussed, doing a community survey to hear back results, or to hear what the community would be supporting, would support moving forward with the school project. So a forward-looking survey, we agreed and voted to do that survey. So I have, following the meeting, reached out and spoken to Tom Hall to get the conversation started, the ball rolling in regard to this. We are going to create a small working group for this. The meetings are likely to be during the workday, so I want to say that right up front. Because we are working with a business, right? So I imagine that these meetings will occur during the workday. Anybody can provide feedback. It's just, we're really talking about who is going to sit and develop the survey with the survey makers. So likely it would be Tom Hall, Jeff, Diane, Counselor McGee would likely be there. Myself, I'm not sure who else from the town council is going to sit there, if anybody, but I did want to see if there was interest among the board, somebody sitting at, to help work with the survey provider to help develop this survey. If there's anybody interested in volunteering. Perfect, thank you, Carolyn. All right. Wonderful. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
What's the anticipated timeline on the survey? Because I think I know at the first meeting, there was some sense of urgency to sort of make sure people's memories are fresh. Is there still a sense of trying to get this out done quickly?
Yes, there's the hope, but it is likely a 6 to 8 week process. So Tom is reaching out with the survey provider to get the ball rolling. And once I could sit here and get another volunteer that I have now with Carolyn, that I can pass on to him, we can really get that group up and running. Yeah. Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? All right. All right, agenda item 11.0 is new business. 11.1 is the second reading of policy JKAA, the use of physical restraint and seclusion. I'm going to bundle this with 11.2, which is the second reading of policy JKAAR, procedures on physical restraint and seclusion. So first I'll turn it over to Freyla.
So this is the second reading of JKAA and JKAAR. These are policies that are guided mostly by federal and state law. We had no real feedback to discuss at our last policy meeting, so we didn't discuss the feedback. We brought it to second reading. If there's any questions, I can answer them, but it's exactly what you saw at first reading. There have been no changes, and most of the language is legally required language.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy JKAA, use of physical restraint and seclusion, and JKAAR, the procedures on physical restraint and seclusion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, agenda item 11.3 is the second reading of policy JEA, compulsory attendance.
For JEA, similarly, we had no feedback. The only change in this policy was that Scarborough previously had required attendance at age 7. State law has changed to make it age 6. So now our policy has changed to come in conformance with state law. That was the only change in the policy. There was no feedback after first reading, so we moved it to second reading without much discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy JEA, compulsory attendance?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, agenda item 11.4, excuse me, is the first reading of policy ADC, which is tobacco-free schools, use and possession of tobacco and electronic smoking devices.
I'll slow this one down a little bit. This is first reading. Obviously, none of us are against tobacco-free schools. This policy was drafted in large part by the recommended draft that was given to us to work off of by the MPA. It really addresses tobacco, but also vaping, which is kind of eclipsed tobacco and what we're seeing at schools, but would take care of any devices that are used to inhale nicotine. This is nicotine primarily. We have a different drug policy that would handle other types of inhalants. In this case, it defines tobacco, smoking, tobacco products. It bans it on school property. And then also requires the guidelines for disciplinary action to enforce this policy. It doesn't allow anyone on school property, so even for folks who are legally allowed to imbibe in these products cannot use them on school property and would be removed if they were to not refrain from that. Ultimately, there's some notice and education components as a part of that, and then obviously bans advertising of tobacco products, which I think is a holdover from the 80s, but we still make sure it's on their policies that you can't obviously advertise tobacco products on school buildings or school functions because of trying to promote healthy development and the refrain for people from using products for obvious reasons. I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thanks, Freyla. All right, do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy ADC, tobacco-free schools, use and possession of tobacco and electronic smoking devices?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 11.5 is the first reading of policy IMGA, service animals in schools.
So this is a IMG is if you're paying attention, we were going through our pre-2020A policies and we found an ACAC policy that was still on the books. However, it had been eclipsed by this policy IMGA. So we switched over to IMGA to complete our review so that we can get it reviewed in 2023. This will take the place of ACAC, which will then disappear from our books if we approve this policy. It guides what happens if a staff member or a student wants to and needs, requires the use of a service animal in school. It lays out the definitions of a service animal. Obviously, I think everyone's aware of many news articles where there have been a lot of debate about different types of animals and the work that they do and the comfort that they provide. This would be very specific It's a dog that's trained to perform tasks to benefit an individual with a disability. Specifically for that purpose, it would also apply to staff members who require the use of a service animal in order to function. It permits that with, it has a process for how an individual would go about getting the approval to have the use of an animal at school. It has some requirements for that animal, some certification, but it requires that the animal is certified, that there's some eligibility requirements for a person to be able to bring an animal onto campus in order to take advantage of that need, or take advantage of a service that they need in order to attend school or to be able to work at school. It allows them at school-sponsored events, and also if for some reason the animal is not able to function properly and is posing a safety threat or to someone else, it has a removal provision that allows the principal to remove the animal and then would be delegated to the superintendent to deal with what happens next. Any questions about that?
All right, do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy IMGA, service animals in schools?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Agenda item 11.6 is the first reading of policy JHB, truancy.
Always a popular topic. Truancy has changed. The state statute changed truancy laws recently, specifically having to do with notice provisions. So truancy is important because truancy can ultimately land a parent or guardian in court if a student is deemed truant, and there's a court process. It's a civil violation, but it's a pretty serious matter to be hauled into court at a summons for attendance. So the law provides what truancy means. If a student is enrolled in school, they have to attend school regularly. If they don't attend school and there's some eligibility at what point a student would cross over from being absent to being in a truancy state. There's some requirements of the district to mitigate that. So there's interventions required to avoid a student becoming into that category of truant. And there's a lot of requirements and that the school district work to help students attend school and to meet whatever the need is that's preventing attendance. Obviously, the goal is to get children in school so that they can be educated. It's impossible to educate a student who's not there. If for whatever reason the intervention is not successful and the students are truant, there's a very specific procedure that the building administrator has to follow, which requires noticing the parent or guardian that they could be truant. That they have to invite them to a meeting sort of designed to avoid further absenteeism. And then in this case, the notice provision is there has to be 2 attempts to serve. And they're specific on how those notices happen. So this policy is changed to bring it in compliance with the current state law, which changed in October. And again, that's about the notice. There's now 2 notice attempts rather than 1, which was before. And it has to be by certified mail or in hand in order so that people actually get the notice. Happy to answer questions. It's a pretty specific procedure, but again, it's mostly governed by state law.
Thanks, Freela. All right, do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy JHB, truancy?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just had one question.
Sure.
Similar to the question I asked the last time we met on just definitions. And because this one, I found the definition of unexcused absence in the compulsory attendance one. Is there a reason why you have to refer to another policy? Is it so you just update them in one spot as opposed to having the definitions contained within the policy? As if it's just a question.
I think it's because compulsory attendance is defined also under Maine law. So like it's actually in Title 20, which is the education laws, compulsory attendance is like, we call it a term of art and law. So it's a specific definition that attaches to that. And so there has to be a compulsory attendance law, like that policy also is required. And then truancy is a separate policy, but they obviously intertwine because compulsory attendance is the requirement, truancy is the consequence of not complying with the compulsory attendance. And then the truancy is really about procedure on what to do if someone's not attending. But you want those definitions to be congruent. Plus lawyers like to write lots of multiple policies. Our books get bigger. It was a good pickup. That's a good pickup.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking through, I don't know that. I'm trying to see if there was a place to really kind of put that in, but. I guess it's really just the cross-reference at the bottom. Mm-hmm.
It's actually referenced in section E, subsection 1. The very first part of the truancy plan. So when you do the truancy plan, it references the compulsory attendance, because again, the compulsory attendance is the requirement. So
Right,
that's,
right.
you have to go to school when you're a certain age. The truancy is simply what happens if you're not in compliance with that provision. So we kind of have like the last one with the restraint, we had JKAA and JKAA-R. So we had like the rule, and then we had the like how to enforce the rule. This is very similar. They're just not like -R like in some ways, because they're not quite interrelated, but compulsory attendance is a requirement. Truancy is the enforcement mechanism.
Are there any other questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 11.7 is the first reading of policy JLAA, which is the wellness policy.
So this policy we actually review more frequently, because there's an audit done of is it nutrition program? Of the food service program, and it requires that we review this policy specifically. So you'll see us go over it every 3 years when that certification comes through, which is what prompted us to look at it this year as well. We made virtually, the policy is virtually the same with one significant change at the end. And I think Shannon sent an email to the board about that change. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase that, and please correct me if I misinterpret it. We deleted in the very last subsection 11 at the time, there's a implementation and evaluation, and it references 2 separate teams. So the policy that's in effect right now has a district health, wellness, and workplace safety team as an advisory committee that then reports out to this other committee, which no longer exists. And so I think at first we were just going to delete all of 11, and we decided we shouldn't do that. And ultimately what is left is a internal school committee. And this is what Shannon was referencing. So there's no parental or board involvement on that internal committee that reviews like workplace safety and wellness of kind of staff wellness. But this would take the requirement out that that internal team then report out to what is now our district emergency management team, which is like absorbed the committee that had been referenced in this. I hope I'm not like too much in the weeds already. I'm happy to answer questions if I'm too weedy, but we had a wellness team or committee at one point, an ad hoc committee, at least by policy. It wasn't in existence when I joined this board. When I joined this board, we have the district emergency management team that meets right now that I think we're all familiar with. So the wellness committee that had been previously that's referenced in this no longer exists. It does not make sense for the internal work committee that exists right now inside the school to report on employee wellness to our district emergency management team. The function of that team simply doesn't contemplate employee wellness. It's about safety and security, mainly what to do if there's a fire or an emergency situation. And employee wellness just doesn't fit in with what that committee does. And so we just removed the requirement that the internal committee report out to that committee or what that committee absorbed into it. And instead, what's left, which is still in the policy, is that the internal committee reports annually to the superintendent. And my understanding is this committee does exist and does report to the superintendent. And the superintendent then annually reports to the board on wellness in the district. And our wellness policy, if you go through the rest of it, talks a lot about, nutrition and wellness goals and the nutritional standards for school meals, nutritional promotion, food initiatives in the school, physical education and activity, screen time, there's a lot of, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you have a young child, those initiatives that you'll see roll through schools and are like, I see it in my school and like with my young kids, obviously I have a kindergartner, and they're still getting that educational, material through the district at their level. And that's more what this policy contemplates. So the substantial changes, we dissolved a committee that is not functionally meeting. Because it didn't make sense, but we should have a discussion about that if people are worried about that or concerned that we should have another ad hoc committee for wellness.
All right, so let's do, first, do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy JALL wellness policy?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yeah,
Right, so some of them are about the policy and then some of them are just more informational that Diane, you might be the one to answer. I know we have challenges. I was just at 1.2A. It says strive to provide maximum available time for students to eat their meals. Do we have, I know we have challenges with the primary schools with that. Do we have like an internal guidance as to what we feel that should be and what it should be, and how do we measure up to that, what we want it to be versus what we are?
Can I change the question slightly and see if that helps?
Absolutely.
And that'd be the first thing is, how do we determine how long lunch is?
Yeah.
No, because I think what you're driving at is right, but I don't know the foundation of which is how does the school figure out how long kids get for lunch
Yeah.
at whatever level? Sorry, Diane.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
So, the time for lunch, is, currently, I believe it's 25 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes, for lunch. And that is really predicated on ensuring that, we can manage kids through lines and give them adequate eating time. There is certainly a wide variety of time involved in students, eating. And if you have ever supervised a cafeteria before, you will notice that there are some students that are done eating within 5 minutes. There are other students who are probably still eating their meal at 25 minutes. And there becomes a real tension point when the critical mass of students is finished eating and are not otherwise occupied. So I feel that I can say with confidence that students are not pushed out the door if they're still eating, that people who are supervising lunches are really calling attention to that. And in those rare cases where a student might require an accommodation, obviously it's our responsibility as a school to make sure that we're allowing that.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, Carolyn, but did that sort of get to
You
your?
nailed it.
Yes.
Thank you. And then I was curious with, and this might be a Freyla question, 4.3 and 4.3 and 4.5, are those even applicable anymore, given that lunch is covered?
That's a really good question. I think it's I'm of two minds, and the first one is school lunches are being provided through the federal government covered them for a couple of years, and then the state of Maine elected to cover lunch and breakfast for students at no cost for I think a period of 4 years. But it's not a guarantee that it will continue, and I think I'm not a speculative and I don't bet on anything actually. But if I were, I would be concerned that in a lean budget cycle, an area where we might see cuts, that would be a place that where if we're gonna cut into education funding, it might be one of the lower hanging fruits.
Yeah.
Or would be seen as one of the lower hanging fruits.
It'll be hard to take away though.
Oh, it would be. I mean, I think it's a
Yeah.
great boon to
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
I think it provides a great service and it eliminates all stigma related to children who would otherwise be receiving food and might feel singled out. I think it does, it actually accomplishes that goal. But no, I think that's a really good question. I would be hesitant to take it out because I don't think it's gonna always be that way. I hope it is, but
Oh, that makes
I don't
sense.
know that it is.
That makes sense. And then Diane,
Mhm.
uh, do we offer locally grown food in cafeterias?
Absolutely.
We do? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, our food service director, Peter, works with a lot of local area providers to have local foods. We also utilize a lot of food that is grown right here in our own garden. So like at Wentworth, for example, a lot of the food that is grown is utilized in the cafeteria. They advertise that to the students, so the students know, you know, today's pizza sauce is made with tomatoes that were grown in our garden, and our food service director does a great job at actually working with teachers and classrooms and engaging students in cooking lessons, et cetera. And so they do a really nice job of advertising, you know, where that locally grown food is from. And that encourages our students to sample things that they might not otherwise try.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, two more.
Mhm.
Screen time. Do we have a sense as to, you know, with all kids having Chromebooks now, I know it's always been a wonder in my mind about how much screen time are they getting at school? I know the amount of screen time they get at home, or mine gets at home.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just curious if we have any insights into, I know sometimes schoolwork is done on the screen and sometimes it's with the teacher. Do we have a sense of a balance there?
You know, I think that that would be a good topic to consider in the curriculum committee. I know that, you know, we have a very robust technology request process here in the district. And as we consider the use of technology, one of our main criteria really is, you know, what is it that this technology can do that we couldn't otherwise do? So it's not just, hey, this is a new shiny object and it replicates something that we're already doing, but we could throw a kid on a computer to do it.
Yeah.
So we really do make that as a consideration. And so, you know, that is part of our process as we're thoughtful about the amount of time that students are sitting on a device.
Okay. Right.
It could even be like a good workshop topic too. I know
Yeah.
we got a
Mhm.
request about cell
Yeah.
phone use in school
Yeah.
too.
That's true.
So maybe we combine.
I was gonna say community forum even. I
Yeah.
think that would be an amazing
Yeah.
topic for a community forum to have the school talk about sort of how they do
Good idea.
technology. 'Cause I know like cell phones in school comes up all the time,
Yeah.
right? And it's a huge, you know, I think parents genuinely struggle with that. And you know, what age and all the different opinions, but just sort of, I think having,
Mhm.
you know, when we talk about a community forum, I think that would be, I mean, because I have the same question.
Mhm.
You know, and I think we all, you know, I share guilt at times and I'm like, is it too much? When's too much? How's it too much? And yet it's
Mhm.
like, what else are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah.
And then the power goes out and it solves the problem for a little while.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that today. Oh,
Yeah.
alright. That was my last one. I thought I had one more, but I didn't.
Just a quick question for folks. Does anybody have a concern that we need to bring back the committee that we inadvertently killed but had an policy?
I don't think, we did a lot of, we went round and round about this and, a lot of conversation around what is this versus what is the DEMT team versus who does what. And, I don't know that, I don't think, I'm not a fan of meetings for meetings, and I don't think we need to bring back an entire committee just to have voices at the table. What I do think though, or I do wonder is could we take this wellness and workplace safety team and can we just add a school board member and a parent? Because the three voices, when you compare the two policies side by side, the three that are missing are the parent, the community member, the board member. And I think you could likely put community member and parent under one umbrella for this purpose. I don't always believe that, but I think for this purpose, I feel like it likely could be the same. And you're kind of driving at the same goal. We don't need to create a whole thing again, but we could just put those two back onto the district health, wellness and workplace safety team.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, we should consider that in policy committee next meeting
Yeah.
and then vote out wherever that. I haven't looked at the policy that where that committee is formed, unless it's just in this. I don't think it may be just in here,
I think
but
it's just in here.
I'd want to make sure we'd reference any other policy or procedure that it was in.
Yeah.
And then I would just sort of let the district think about that. I would like to at least ask the team if that would be disruptive, how they feel about that. And if
Mhm.
they're like, great, more Mary are awesome. But if they throw up any red flags about something, I'd want to just consider it.
Mhm.
But I don't like unintended consequences. So I'd want to make sure we just are mindful about before we add that committee, just talking to the committee.
Yeah. All right, any other comments or discussion? Good, all right, so, we did motion to discuss, okay, all in favor of the passing the first reading? It's unanimous, thank you. All right, agenda item 11.8 and 11.9 are both about the building steering committee. So for this, I am going to invite Counselor McGee to, unfortunately, you'll have to stand at the podium. I hope that's okay, to participate with us. So the first one is 11.8, which is to act on the building steering committee governance document. And Diane, if you don't mind, popping that open so that the community can follow along. This is in the material, so everybody has access to it. So this is the draft of the governance document that we've been working through. We've had it for a few weeks now. The town council had a discussion about this yesterday. I do know, I did participate remotely in the town council meeting, and I understand there's some concern around the charge. I did not really hear much in the way of feedback in any other area of the governance document. It really appeared to mostly be around the charge. But to what Councilor McGee said earlier, there was a request that we have two board members, two designees from the board meet with Councilor McGee and Councilor Seither to discuss the document. Kind of like, I think I gave this example at the last meeting, like, when you have the federal government, you have your two houses of in the Capitol that kind of work on documents, and then there's a group that works together to kind of hammer out the details. And so that's where we're at. And there was definitely seemed to be a lot of support for that. So I think there is a desire to do that. I did take the comments we discussed last week and I added them in here. So you'll notice under 9, under quorum and voting, hold on, this is an older version. Hang on a second. I did in the newer version that we'll post, that I changed the voting member. It's community members, school board members, town councilors, and teachers could vote, which was the conversation we had at the last meeting. But as school administrators would not vote. I do know there was some conversation last night as to that. There is a desire to really, from what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, really to have all of us abstain from voting. So it would be town councilors, school board members would abstain, administrators would abstain from voting, teachers, so that you only have those community members that are representatives of the community voting in this committee. I just heard one though. I don't know that it totally took off, but
I would add that I think that there's hope that your two liaisons and Councilor Seither and myself could help hammer out some of these finer
Mhm.
details. I think we're open to discussions about the composition, who's a voting member, who's not, but I think we do want to suss that out a little bit more.
yeah. So, that would be something to discuss. The other thing is, on number 7, which is the officers, there has been, one of the pieces of feedback I received is that the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary should be elected by, we should consider having the town council and the school board together electing those people, those individuals. So when an application goes out, what would happen if this is the way, if this is the direction that the 4 representatives want to go in? Presumably, right, when we give 2 of our board members, they give 2 town councilors, we're coming up with a document that we would all reasonably agree with, right? That's the point of having this working group. These are just the big areas that I would tell you would likely come up. So if the council, if the 4 of them decide that the council and the school board elects the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, what would happen is when we put out an application, there would be a question in there. Are you interested in being the chair? Are you interested in being the vice chair? Are you interested in being the recording secretary? And then the 2 bodies can have a discussion about those that are interested and kind of make a decision accordingly. Other than those 2 changes, this roughly looks the same. Under the charge, I did add in middle schools. That was missing from the original. So I did go ahead and put that back in. That was feedback we received early on. So now it's the primary and middle schools. But again, this is the original charge. I know there's a lot of angst around this, and are we just trying to go forward with the same thing again? And that's not really the expectation, but until we really had a feel for what the town council wanted to do and what we wanted to do, I left this really unchanged.
I would say from our point of view, we look at this as a great jumping off point for those discussions. I think from our point of view, we'd like to sit with 2 of your members if you find that agreeable,
Mhm.
and really just hammer all of that out, the entire framework, the process behind it, even coming up with the appropriate charge, composition of voting members. And not only that, how the 2 bodies will interact. Once we have a recommendation from the building committee, I think that needs to be worked out too. Does it go right to you? And then does it come back to the council if you approve it? Like, how does that all, if we're going to do this jointly, how does this work? What is the influence from our side, your side? It's all our side, right? We're together in this, but
Yeah.
how do those interact and how do they interplay? So I think from our perspective, like, this is like a great jumping off point. We know we have something to work off of. But I would say I don't think I have, nor do I think we asked for full support of the bulk of this document. I think it was the conceptual idea that we were really involved with last night. Like, conceptually, do we like this idea of being joint partners in this venture? And that was affirmative, absolutely.
Okay, so now we want to have some discussion. So let me do I have a motion to act on the recommendation of act on the building steering committee governance document, excuse me.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
So when you say act on, what does that exactly mean?
So we would either vote this up or vote this down, this document as it stands. Given where the council is, this puts me in a bind. After we're done talking about it, I'm going to suggest we consider tabling this until the 2 bodies have a chance to meet, but I don't want to do that.
That's
yet
what I
because
was
it stops
hoping we
the
were
discussion.
getting towards.
Yeah. We have to
Okay.
discuss first because if I do that, we're done.
Okay, well, I think it's something that we can't just vote on this, and because we're like
Mhm.
basically starting, we said we like it, you said you've liked it, but we haven't hammered out any details,
Right.
so we need to meet at some point, so we should discuss and decide when that's gonna be, then at the time, then say, okay, we'll table it until after this has happened, and then we can bring up what we discussed, what we hammered out, and then go from there. I mean, I think that's the smart course,
So if I'm hearing you, you're in favor of the 2 board members meeting with the 2.
100%, yes.
Perfect, thanks, John.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think there's a lot of discussion to be had until we have a more finalized document. I think we've all, at least my last time we talked about this last meeting, we're all in favor of working jointly with the town. I mean, the idea that this is not a joint venture is just false. We have to work together, and so the earlier in the process we do that, the more likely we are to have a solution that will fix the situation, address the needs that the students have. And because of the way the town owns all the buildings and how the town acquires this project, I think it makes a lot of sense to do this. I think we all want to work collaboratively. I think it's a relief to be working together now. I think one of the stressful things for me last time was coming in so late in the process based on when I joined this board, and then having it like start with the town council, and really, it was very discordant to have seen all the work done in this body and then handed to the town council as if they've never seen it before. And so I think having it start from the beginning is just a smoother, much more logical process.
Thank you, Brayla. So typically I would say that our two representatives make the most logical sense, or two liaisons to the building steering committee. One would be Jillian, the other is vacant right now. And so, I mean, I can step in as the second or the third really in this position, unless somebody else is wanting to do it, then I'm happy to let someone else serve on this. We good? All right, so we'll do Jillian and I, and now there, I want to make a motion to table the building steering committee governance document until such time that the board representatives and the town council representatives are able to meet and hammer out what this
Second.
document looks like.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, I'm sorry. All in favor? Thank you, it's unanimous. All right, agenda item 11.9 is to act on the recommendation of the building steering committee for committee makeup. So again, this one, the recommendation from the building steering committee is that we allow anyone to sit on the committee who completes an application by a certain date. There's a date in here of January 5th. I don't know that that's realistic given what we just discussed. But by a specific date, and that they are willing to serve on a subcommittee and attend meetings. And I think that's it. And the attendance policy, they're willing to adhere to the attendance policy for the committee, which is outlined right now temporarily in this governance document, which is that they will, failure to attend 3 consecutive meetings or 4 meetings within a 12-month period may result in removal from the committee. So, my thought on this is that we should also put this in front of the group that's going to work together. So that's where I'm thinking. So let me just do do I have a motion to act on the recommendation of the building steering committee for committee makeup?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I
Outside
move we-
of what I just said.
Oh, I was just,
I support your plan to.
I think we
table it.
move to table it until after said group
committee.
meets.
Okay. So maybe that we have a second?
Second.
Right, all in favor? All right, it's unanimous. So those will both be tabled until the committee meets.
Thank you, and we'll be in touch, Jen, and I'll just reach out to you to schedule a date and time for that initial meeting.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you,
for your
everyone.
support.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 11.10 is to act on the request for nominations to fill a vacancy on the board created by a resignation term to expire in June of 2024. So I just want to first, before we jump into this, I just want to again, just say really quickly what we're voting on. So a yes vote to this motion after if it's approved for someone motions and seconds and we vote, a yes vote means that nominations would be open for the board. So board members would be able to then give nominations for the committee
Immediately.
immediately after the vote, immediately after a successful vote. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve, or a motion to act on the request for nominations to fill a vacancy on the board created by a resignation term to expire June of 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, okay, I'll start. I'm going to, my intention tonight, is to nominate Leanne to fill this vacancy. And Colby, I danced around this last week because I wasn't sure if you were gonna say something and I really wanted to kind of set the tone last week, but tonight, I really want to talk to you. Because I think for me, I really weighed this out and what, I think it's unbelievably generous that you've offered to step up and the way that you spoke last week and advocated for yourself, you should be so incredibly proud. I'm super proud of you. And it's really incredible that at such a young age, you're able to do that. And that to me is, goes beyond anything else I can tell you. And my struggle has been, I'm looking ahead at what we have to do as a board. So, we need to get a community survey together. We have to reseat a building steering committee board. We have to work with the town council to do that. We have to, get an application out for that board. We still need a school. We are entering into budgetary season, which takes, time out of the normal like workday, right? Like with workshops and we still have a school need and we have, all of the other things. Oh, and we have 3 contracts we have to negotiate with our professional staff. And that's in addition to all of the normal stuff that the board does. And so when I think of that, and then I think of all the things you have in your senior year and track and schoolwork and your job and your friends and like, quite frankly, living your very best life as you should be right now as a senior, I don't feel like I can ask you to miss any of those senior things. But then if I don't ask you to miss those senior things, that means you're missing something that's really important to the community. And so that's where my struggle is with this. And so because of that, because of all of those things that I know you have going on, that's why I'm going to nominate Leanne tonight. But I don't think for a moment this is the last we're going to see of you or hear of you or see you and running for something. I know that I know we're going to see you doing something else and I'm so excited to do that and to watch you from the sidelines. And so I don't want you to think that me saying that I want to nominate Leanne means anything means that I don't want you, because that's not it at all. It's truly just a matter of looking at the community as a whole and the work we have on the table and then what I would be asking you to give up. And I can't in good conscience do that. All right, does that make sense? All right, is there any other? I mean, I'll just reiterate what I said last night or last meeting. I don't know why I just said last night. Last meeting about Leanne. She is the individual who the community elected originally to serve in this position. And so what we are doing by appointing her tonight would be appointing the person the community actually elected. To serve in this exact seat, as a matter of fact. So we have an opportunity here where we can actually involve the community in the sense that we're reappointing who they elected. She can hit the ground running. She was a previous board member, a previous board chair. She's really volunteered to help us, just like Colby did when we needed it. So this is a really fantastic opportunity for us. And there's a very limited number of people that we could nominate that would have the same level of experience as her. And so we're really fortunate that, in my mind, we're really fortunate that we have that option on the table. Yes, please. Say. Yeah, you sure can.
I'll just nominate myself.
All right, so let us vote first. All right, so is there any further discussion?
I did want to say one thing and just so that you understand our thinking is, and some of this is that some of the things are going to happen while you're at school. Some of it's going to happen at night, but for us to ask you to say, okay, I got to make a choice between whatever class I'm going to miss to do whatever we have to do. And I know some of these budget things are ours. And I don't think it would be fair to you to do that. And I wouldn't ever say, hey, you know what? I know you might got a big test coming up in physics or whatever, but we're going to need you on the budget. So you got to push that aside, and that's not fair to you. You shouldn't have to make that choice. So that's the only reason that I'm going against it, is because I don't want to put anybody in that position, and it's definitely not, I mean, believe me, my boss loves it when I tell him, hey, dude, I got, 2 days next week that I'm not going to be there, and you're still going to pay me, and, and I got to do this. So I just want you to understand that.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Colby's interested, we know that. Leanne is interested, we know that. Have we heard of anyone else who is interested, in the intervening 2 weeks?
I have not heard from anybody that they're interested.
I haven't either. I just want to make sure that there's no one else that we would be considering.
All right, if there's no further discussion. So motion second discussion. All in favor on acting on the request for nominations to fill a vacancy on the board created by a resignation, term to expire in June of 2024? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so now we can take nominations. So do you want me to go first? Or do you want to go first? Okay.
Let's get it over with. I'll nominate myself. I don't know
Okay.
if there's anything else to say, but yeah.
So, you would make a motion to nominate, in this case, I do think it has to be a board member that makes a nomination because you're of course, a member of the school board, but a little bit of a different capacity. So, I would need a, school board member to nominate you. Go ahead.
I will make a motion to nominate Colby.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
I would like to discuss. I did make the motion because I think I think you have earned a fair discussion, and a fair, like, up and down vote. I think that's valid. Ultimately, I'm not going to support you, and it has nothing to do with my feelings towards you. My thought process is different than other folks. I feel that I have a responsibility to vote for the person who I think will serve in the best capacity in this role. And I think you just happen to have somebody else who comes to the table with a heck of a lot of experience, which is something that this board could use right now in this role at this time. And so it doesn't, it's not about protecting you. I think that you can make your own decision about how to spend your time. But for me, I take my responsibility very seriously about representing what I think is the best interests of the board. And I think in this particular instance, you just happen to be matched against somebody which none of us would want to be matched against. So somebody who just is tremendously experienced, has a lot to give. That being said, I do think you have an amazing future. I do not think I am going to be the last person that nominates you for something. And I very much admire your service to this board for the entire time that I've been on here. You've been on here longer. And you've been diligent in your attendance, in your reporting duties. And I respect a great deal your work ethic. And I, wish you the best, but I just wanted to explain myself. That being said, I think you had a right to consideration, and I think that's fair.
I'm just gonna copy exactly what Freyla said, but I think you can tell that all of us were ready to hit the microphone button to nominate you, because we all think that you deserve a seat at the table also. But just like Freyla, just making the decision to nominate somebody is hard. And yes, you are pit up against someone, again, that none of us want to be up against either. But I do really appreciate everything that you've done. And I think you are even capable of being in this position. And again, much like what Freyla is saying, you're in control of your own schedule. You know what you need and want. But I do also think that you deserve to be up here, just like the rest of us.
All right. Okay, so we have a first, second, and discussion. So all in favor of, Colby Shumway, being our nominee to fill the vacancy? All opposed? So 2-4, so it does fail. Thank you, Colby. I make a motion to nominate Leanne Casalonis.
Second,
All right, any discussion on Leanne?
she's great.
All right, hearing none. All in favor of nominating Leanne Casalonis to fill the vacancy on the board? All opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So Leanne will fill the vacancy. Thank you again, Colby. All right, agenda item 11.11 is meeting minutes. I'm going to bundle 11.11.1, which is the business meeting minutes of November 16th, 2023. 11.11.2, which is the workshop meeting minutes of December 7th, 2023. And 11.11.3, which are the business meeting minutes, goodness, of December 7th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And agenda item 12.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, since this is the last meeting before Christmas and New Year's, I would like to wish everyone a happy holidays and such, and we'll see you next year.
All right, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening and happy holidays.